Recognize the very tragic loss of Master Trooper Goulet this last weekend, along with the other tragedies that occurred this weekend. But he was in the line of duty, trying to do his job. Unfortunately, we lost Trooper Goulet this weekend. I ask that I know I'll do during my moment of silence today to keep him and his family in mind and in my prayers.
Brian Crawford.
Here.
Leonard Knapp.
Here.
Robert Here.
Here.
Carol Perry.
Here.
Sabrina Richardson.
Here.
Hewlett Simeon.
Present.
Jared Rickey.
Here.
Lenore Feeney.
Here.
And Jason Henry.
Here.
I'd like to observe a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Executive Director, we received any requests to address the commission on items on the agenda?
There were no requests, Mr. Chairman.
We'll move on to the business items. Number one under business item is consideration of the meeting minutes from September 30th of 2021. Do we have any motions?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve and seconded. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we'll move to item number two, oral argument on the motion to reconsider the motion to stay the appeals of Dakota DeMoss, docket number 21253-T, and George Harper, docket number 21252-T. Good morning. Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Good morning, Commission. My name is Adam Karamanis, here on behalf of George Harper and Dakota DeMoss. And I'm here this morning to ask y'all to reconsider the motion to stay the appeals of my clients. About 2 weeks ago, the last commission meeting, that motion to stay their appeals was denied. I believe that a motion to stay is proper in this case because my clients were arrested for the same event that state police has provided as the basis for their termination from state police. And moreover, my clients have also received target letters from the DOJ indicating that they're the subjects of federal investigations as well. Now, the status of their charges in the 5th JEC where they were arrested, they have not yet been arraigned, but that's the current disposition of the case. And we believe that the stay would be proper here because, as I mentioned, because the matter is the same here for the basis of both their appeal and their arrest, allowing the appeal to proceed for this commission, my clients would be placed in an untenable position where they're essentially having to choose between appealing to hopefully get their job back or invoking their Fifth Amendment right to avoid potentially incriminating themselves in criminal matters that are currently pending. And so they would have to take advantage of their Fifth Amendment right, and they wouldn't be able to testify, they wouldn't be able to ask questions here, they wouldn't be able to tell their side of the story for their appeals in their own words, which, as this commission knows, that's a crucial part of any appeal. And I also want to point out that most recently, this commission granted a similar stay in a very similar matter in the case of Lieutenant Perkins. I don't want to get into details of all that, but he requested a stay pending the resolution of his criminal matter, and I believe the stay lasted for well over a year. And upon the completion or the resolution of his criminal matter, the stay was ended and he proceeded with his appeal, and that's what we're seeking in this case.
Does the agency have any comment?
We have no position on stay.
Any commission? Commissioner Knapp.
I have just a few questions. First, I am assuming that the investigation and the termination from the department, maybe the department, they want to come up, the same
rights lay with that, when they were making the decision dealing with the termination, is that right? That the termination was ordered by was ordered in this case, is that correct?
So an administrative investigation was done, and during the administrative investigation, the agency can compel an officer to come in and make a statement. And if they get the guarantee warnings, which say that nothing they say in that statement can be used against them criminally. So we can compel the statement. And based upon the entire administrative investigation and the criminal investigation, the decision was made to terminate the employees. I don't believe either employee, Mr. Karamanis may be able to elaborate on this, I don't believe either employee waived their Fifth Amendment rights in the criminal case and made a statement. That's the only case the department has ever taken a position on a stay. In one case, we opposed a stay before the commission because the employee did waive their Fifth Amendment right in the criminal case and made statements in the criminal case admitting to the conduct. And we felt there wouldn't be any waiver of any Fifth Amendment right in a proceeding here because they had already done that.
I would like to get a little more information on what the effect of a stay would have insofar as things before the, is it with pay at this time?
No, sir. They've been terminated effective.
Whatever dates they are in a letter.
It was June of this year. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
June 4th.
Now, so if they're receiving pay, it's because of their, they've got vacation.
They're not receiving pay. They are terminated. They are no longer state troopers at this point. They are appealed to this commission. Once you hear it, if you choose to overturn that discipline and put them back on the job, they would possibly be entitled to back pay. So they are no longer state troopers at this point.
But can't they use their accrued leave that they
No, sir.
can't do
They
that
get-
either?
They're paid out.
They get paid 300 hours of annual leave, and the rest of the leave is wiped off of the books unless they get their jobs back, then it will be restored back.
I understand, thank you.
I might add, Commissioner Knapp, that if circumstances developed where there was a hearing and the terminations were overturned, the commission then still has the right to not allow back pay from the beginning of the request for the stay until the time of the hearing. So there's not an entitlement to back pay should the termination be reversed.
As we did in the purpose.
Correct.
Commissioner Crawford. Yeah, just a couple of things. So I know what's before the body is to extend a stay, but this employee's been terminated, so wouldn't we have to bring the employee back first, then stay the, how do we stay?
You're just staying his appeal
Okay.
before the, you're not gonna docket
I got
the
you.
appeal.
Okay, so the second question is hypothetically, if they hadn't been terminated and the investigation went on, the colonel made the decision that, hey, we're gonna just put them on leave until the criminal investigation is completed, what would their circumstances be as far as, would they be entitled to leave with pay, leave without pay, or is that the discretion thing? I think I remember that he's got some discretion after so many days, I think, so.
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
So
The
if
right
he-
of appeal
if he
is.
had not been, if he had not been terminated,
Yes, sir.
and the colonel made the decision that we're not gonna terminate you, but we're gonna put you on leave until your criminal investigation is complete, would he have been put on leave with pay or without pay, or does the colonel have the discretion?
I
There would
guess,
have had to have been some discipline.
yeah, we have to complete the administrative investigation within 60 days or get an extension of time. At the
So-
conclusion of that, the decision to discipline has to be made, so.
So the time that the investigation is going internal and the employee is on leave, is he being paid or is he not being paid?
Well, there is paid administrative leave, if
Okay,
the colonel
that's my
chooses to use that, yes, sir.
Okay, that was my question.
And they received that benefit in this
Right.
case, but that's over.
That's kind of what I was.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. We do have the opportunity, I think the current rule is 400 hours of paid leave pending an investigation.
Right.
If it goes beyond that for some reason, we have other tools, forced annual leave. I can't tell you in this case, specifically if it
Sure.
went over that time or what, but
Any other questions?
A couple of, I guess, statements or questions, Mr. Chairman. In regards to using the criminal arrest as basis of terminating employee, that's where I have a problem with combining the two. For example, I'm reading here, if I can, your actions are unreasonable force. Can I read it? Okay. Okay, result in an arrest for simple battery and malfeasance in office. Okay, so if you take that sentence out, the arrest or administrative, those are two criminal aspects of the termination. By combining the two is kind of what I have a problem with. If the department stays away from, in its termination letters, the criminal aspect, I wouldn't have a problem with the aspect of staying it, but now, or maybe not staying it, but I think we kind of have to, in my opinion, limited knowledge because the two are combined. And I think that kind of causes some issues with the amendment, right, for the employee. As I understand it, again, I'm not an attorney, but I think the department has the ability to terminate someone just for administrative purposes. If they got arrested and had no administrative issues, then I think we have to wait to the outcome of that arrest. But this situation, these two are combined. The administrative aspect, and you also were arrested for simple battery malfeasance.
So, if I can comment, they weren't terminated because of the arrest, but the facts that form the basis for the arrest and the administrative violations are the same. That statement is just a factual statement. In this appeal before the commission, we don't have to prove criminal conduct. We don't have to prove a conviction based upon those facts. The conduct is the conduct.
So why mention it? Because there's going to be an outcome.
Give this commission the information that there are criminal charges pending against these employees.
Okay, well that's part of the problem that I have is combining the two. That's it.
Commissioner Knapp.
With regard to the criminal charges, that the investigation was referred to a district attorney or to a,
Mr. Caramel.
so what is the status of, has a bill of information been issued or a grand jury panel that has returned a,
No, Commissioner. They've only been arrested. They're awaiting arraignment. That's all we know at this time. And as I said, they've also received DOJ target letters for federal criminal investigations as well.
And how long has that been pending now? When were they referred over to the district attorney's office?
They were arrested back in February.
February.
Yes.
And so it's been since February that there are charges taken.
That's correct. I would like to point out, we don't have any control over that, Commissioner. That's obviously the DA's office. Unfortunately, she doesn't answer the first-year associate attorneys, but I'll let you know if she does.
I'm familiar with that.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? We don't have a motion, right? No one's made a motion yet.
Right.
Well, he's made a motion,
He's made a
but no
motion.
one on the commission has made a motion. Well, there is consideration, so we either need the motion to accept or reject the request for reconsideration.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we reject the motion to reconsider the motion to stay the appeal of Dakota DeMoss and George Harper.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motions itself? So the motion is to reject the request for reconsideration, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so a yea would be to keep the status quo and to not grant the stay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I want to oppose, yes.
So the ayes have it. obviously, last time we were here, we got a report from state police as to their response to that particular resolution. Actually, before House Resolution 84 came down, we have already been looking at some potential rule changes, and we're going to continue to do that. But if any of the commissioners would like to discuss anything about their thoughts on responding to Resolution 84, we can have a public discussion of that at this time.
I would like to get the department's comments, Mr. Chairman, if I may, on the amount of time that's currently allowed by the rules in regards to investigations, and maybe what's needed to, or if the department feels to properly investigate complaints, considering the department employee and the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Colonel Doug Kane, State Police Chief of Staff. So as it relates to 1 and 2 in the timelines, as you all know, State Police was part of the working group, working with Senator Fields as it relates to HCR 84, so we were part of those discussions and certainly agree with the recommendations made by the committee.
Can I ask why? Like, for example, the current time that we have, the rules that are in place with the 60 days versus and the 15 that can be requested. In addition to that, why is it needed? Is the question.
With regards to number 1 or number 2?
I'm not looking at it, I'm sorry.
You're talking about the 60 versus the 75 days?
Yes, 60 versus 75.
There were lots of discussions with lots of stakeholders, including the Sheriff's Association, the Chiefs Association, FOP organization, legislators, community stakeholders, and I certainly wasn't there for all of them, but the department had representation, and we collectively agreed that this would be a fair path forward for all the stakeholders that were involved in this process. So we're going to support the recommendation that came out of ACO 84.
Maybe the executive director can shed some light. How often had there been a request for you to grant the additional 15 days, and is that pretty pro forma if that request comes in?
Mr. Chairman, looking back, it only appears that since I've been executive director since 2017, there have been approximately 10 requests. It might even be a few less than that. So to extend beyond the 60 days, that it appears that all investigations have been able to be completed within the 60-day time frame, and only 10 times have been asked to grant an additional 15 days. So
do we know how many investigations have been undertaken during that time period?
I don't have that. I'm sure it's considered.
Any estimate?
I'm sorry.
I don't have that. I don't have that number for you. I don't know if the department has an estimate on how many investigations in the last 4.5 years.
Rob, if I remember right, one of the issues was there were so many agencies involved and so many stakeholders involved that the 60 days with holidays, and it was a moving target. Some local jurisdictions have a holiday that the state doesn't have. So the 75 hard days was something that everybody could adhere to regardless of your state, parish, or local ordinances processes. So it was one standard for all law enforcement agencies across the state.
Mr. Commissioner, if I may. Yes, listen again, just so I'm clear, and I believe I understand exactly how that process went. The extension of this additional 15 days, so to speak, is not that you don't have to use it, correct, sir? That just is there in the event that you need extra time to complete a thorough investigation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you do not have to use the 15 days if you can get this investigation completed in 60 days, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And that 75-day mark that was statewide, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was, I do believe that it was multiple agencies across the state that this was the happy medium for everyone. And I will say that, on both sides of the investigation, for the officers and or the agency, whichever agency that may be. Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, our current is 60 days, including weekends, 60-day calendar days. This is what I understand is not including weekends, not including holidays. In talking with employees, no, just the opposite. Okay. I'm talking with the employees, they do, employees that are involved in IA investigations, the troopers, they basically said that the times they ran into issues is around the holidays. You got Thanksgiving, you got 2 days, you got Christmas, and you got New Year's. Those are 6 days that they said that they just lose. That is problematic in investigations, I believe. They also said they don't work on weekends most of the time. So I can understand that to some degree. But I don't think if in general we should increase the time because every agency has agreed in the state. I think that based on the needs of the department and doing a thorough investigation, that we, based on the time limits that we currently have and maybe what's needed, but having a blanket agreement because everybody can accept it in the state, I don't think that's something that the commission just automatically should agree on.
Yes, Commissioner Rickey.
Jason, when you were asked those 10 times, is that pretty much a blanket? You would give it to them anyway?
They would present a justification. The most recent request was due to Hurricane Ida and the closures in the Baton Rouge area and statewide, and also the resources that were deployed statewide. And so it caused a drain on some of the resources and therefore delayed some of the days that they were affected in looking at their investigation. So anytime that a request is submitted, there is a rational business reason or business justification for such a request, and it typically involves a holiday or something of natural disaster or something that occurred. Like I said, in this last request, I did contact the captain in internal affairs just to confirm, and that was the explanation that was given, and it was also noted that there were many requests that IA processes or that's on their internal docket, if you will, or their internal. But it's very rare that we get a request.
I guess a better question would be, how many requests have you gotten that you denied?
In the
Tom, you've been
in the time I've been here, I haven't denied one based on the information that was been submitted. It was all justifiable.
And Mr. Commissioner, if I may, we work really hard to do it within the 60 days. We believe that's fair to the employee and the department. But certainly, there's extenuating circumstances, and we work hard to justify that extension to Mr. Hannon for his consideration. So they aren't arbitrarily made. It's usually some sort of justifiable business process, and he's graciously helped us with that. But our goal is always to do it within the time frame, and we will remain that.
I would expect it was. What I was just trying to understand was, with all due respect to my fellow commissioner, I don't see this being some huge sticking point. Basically, the way I'm reading it is, y'all asked for it, and there was a reason it was approved. Now we're just quantifying it where it's part of the process. So, right, okay.
Yes, Commissioner Knapp.
Seems to me that having that 60 days there is helpful because it sets a deadline and then allows some flexibility. And we could expand it to include that if it ends on a weekend or a holiday, then it's automatically extended like the language that's suggested here. And then have still have the 15 days, which kind of requires a justification for going beyond the 60 days, which I kind of like, and it keeps the pressure, it keeps the decision-making flowing, for that reason. So I kinda like the way we've got it set up, but it does put a little additional work on our executive director, there to do that, but it doesn't sound like it's a major thing. So,
Chair?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Crawford.
I mean, from my vantage and being a former fire chief, and having to deal with the 60-day rule we have with local civil service boards too. We have the 60 days as far as firefighter bill of rights and those types of things. It was always challenging to make sure that you counted the 60 days and the weekends, and like Commissioner Myers stated, there were Christmas holidays, and you had to count off of those things. And I'm telling you, if you got off a day somewhere, they would throw the whole thing out because you missed a day. And so I see validity in saying, look, let's change this to be 75 days from today. So holidays, weekends, nothing counts, everybody's on the same page, you count out 75 days and you're done. We remove the language in Rule 1219B that says permits the appointing authority to extend the 50 days. We take that out. We leave the additional rules in place to where the executive director, or there's a joint agreement between the appointing authority and the plaintiff to extend it for 60 days. So there's still, you give them 75 days, it's a hard count, everybody knows what the days are, takes into account all the holidays, and I understand the Christmas and stuff, but even if I'm a member, that's better for me. I can count on 75 days, I don't have to skip weekends, holidays, it's better for me if I'm the appointing authority. And so I would be in favor of changing the rules to say, hey, 75 days, taking out section B to extend that 15 days, because now it's built in, and leaving the other provisions in there that gives the appointing authority and the plaintiff an opportunity to extend it, or the executive director, for 60 more days if so necessary. Thank you.
And I just want to remind everyone that today, there's no proposed rule change.
Right.
Today, we're just kind of giving input today, and we'll be able to address these on its merits, if and when there's a proposed rule change. Yes, yes.
If I can make a few comments and kind of give you some background.
Go ahead and identify yourselves.
Michelle Brewer.
I know who you are.
Yes, sir.
For the record.
I appreciate that. So I think Commissioner Crawford, in the State Police Commission rule, it is calendar days. So we have the straight 60 calendar days. The addition of the 15 days would be a big help to help you understand the process in state police. And also keep in mind the employee has 14 days to seek counsel. So we can't interview that employee potentially for 14 days of the investigation if they're going to retain counsel to attend their interview with them. And then the way state police does it in rule, we have a disciplinary review committee that entails all the lieutenant colonels. Sometimes it's difficult to get all those people to come together for a meeting, but the colonel has decided that's the best process to do it. The additional 15 days would probably reduce the number of requests that we have to make to Executive Director Hanneman, but I would suggest that you leave that in because most of the time the employees will agree to it because the outcome of the investigation is to get all the facts and to make a correct decision. So the employee can extend it, but the 15 days that the Executive Director would still have, the commission doesn't meet weekly, so we wouldn't have a process if we get in that time crunch. And sometimes things happen at the last minute, you get additional information that you need to follow up on, that the commission wouldn't be meeting in time for us to make that request to the commission, and it's a very limited time period. So I would recommend any rule changes would leave that option in there, and then to request an additional period of time from the commission members, if that makes sense to you guys.
So would you say, I know the House rule was 75 days excluding weekends and holidays. You got a 75-day period that didn't exclude that.
I think it's flat calendar days for state police right now, it's
Right,
flat
yeah,
calendar days.
that's what I mean.
Yes, and it would be just 75 calendar days,
Right.
same again, yes.
Any other questions or comments on any of the other aspects of the resolution? Okay. Well, what we'll do is the executive director and be in consultation with commissioners, we're going to come up with some ideas on potential rule changes. which will be circulated, and then we will promulgate them hopefully in time to address those potential rule changes at our December. The business agenda is discussion of the State Police Commission's budget request for fiscal year 22-23.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with the table, so.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we are currently working on the fiscal year 22-23 budget, but just wanted to present some highlights that are moving forward. Proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23 will have 4 priorities that are beyond the standard inflationary and annual performance adjustment requests, and I'll outline those real quick. Priority number 1 would be the restoration of the full-time deputy director position at the State Police Commission. Historically, the State Police Commission had 4 full-time positions, including a deputy director position. However, in 2015, the position was removed from the table of organization. So we're looking to bring that back. The proposed budget request will reflect the addition of 1 unclassified deputy director position with salary and related benefits to be funded at a comparable AS 622 pay range on the pay schedule that was adopted by the Commission in 2019. The pay level range proposed is 2 levels lower than the executive director pay level and is on par with the deputy spacing structure that is currently used by other state agencies. I believe there's a pay grid in your binders. It didn't make my binder, but since personal services roughly account for 58% of our total budget, the addition of the 4th position will reflect a noticeable increase over the current year budget. But to better facilitate the Commission's desire to increase oversight and investigative options, it's my recommendation that we proceed with that request.
And one of the primary functions of the executive director would be investigative in nature. Or the deputy executive.
Correct. It would administer the investigation process for complaints and inquiries that are submitted to the State Police Commission.
Any questions?
The next 3 priorities have a significantly smaller impact on the overall budget request, and in some cases may be accomplished using minimal additional funds. However, they are still noticeable initiatives for our agency in fiscal year 22-23. Priority number 2 would be office space. To accommodate the additional position, I'm working with our landlord to identify the most cost-effective solution to add office space, as well as a dual-purpose space that will allow for small meetings and also cadet testing. We currently do cadet testing in our file room, and the addition of a small meeting space would be ideal to have in-person cadet testing, and that is looking at an approximate 8,000 increase annually for our rent. Any questions regarding?
Mr. Director, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I can go back to the previous deputy director, just very quickly. So, just give me the process real quick about finding that person. So how do you go about selecting that person? Or the applications, who we advertise with?
What we would do is, in your binders, you should have a copy of a draft listed job duties for that position. And what we would do is we would utilize the LaGov online recruiting platform that we currently have. We can also look elsewhere. But right now, most state employees go to that one LaGov site and that's actually where I was recruited for this, or I found this position.
Works pretty well then, huh?
Yeah, it worked pretty well, right? So we would post the posting of an unclassified State Police Commission Deputy Director with salary and job duties and any minimum qualifications that we wish to establish. If it's above and beyond bachelor's degree, if there's specializations that we want to include. And then we would wait for applications to come in. We would partner with DPS HR. They were able to access the system and forward those applications to us. And then we would determine the interview selection process after that. But the first step would be to get it through the spring session and get the appropriation.
Okay, thanks.
The third priority I've identified is a technology upgrade. The Office of Technology Services recommends a 48-month life cycle on hardware. And our computers were purchased in 2017, October actually. So our computers are already at their recommended life cycle. So I'm waiting on an estimate from the OTS end user computing director on replacing 3 computers and adding the 4th computer to our team. By working with OTS, we'll have access to the state's Dell Enterprise Partnership pricing for those computers. So, I'm looking at a roughly $7,000 to $8,000 budget for that. And finally,
I'm sorry, what was the figure again?
between $7,000 to $8,000.
I don't have the 78,000.
No, sorry. Between 7 to 8. I think 3 laptops and a desktop. I think that would be a good ballpark. However, hopefully it comes in lower than that. Again, I don't have the final number. It's not as high as you heard. The 4th priority would be a website upgrade. We currently benefit from the use of the DPS Lotus Notes platform to maintain our existing website. However, that system is beyond antiquated, as is our website. Due to limitations in the platform, there hasn't been a significant aesthetic upgrade in almost 20 years.
Just as a note on that, I know this past weekend I asked you to post something on our website relative to the tragedy that was suffered by state police. And you couldn't put it on the website.
Yeah, there wasn't a format for media or press release updates. We didn't have a place that we would put something like that on our current site. So, but we're in the future. What I've seen, I'm working with Office of Technology Services again, and one of their vendors that they used with other boards and commissions, as well as expresslane.org. I think you can get your driver's license renewal or the Get a Game Plan. Those websites have been developed by this vendor, and so we're working with them on establishing a website redesign. They'll be more engaging for cadet applicants, for state police service employees, as well as individuals that wish to make complaints or comments to the commission. So have an item for that. And of course, OTS is working on those numbers, and I'm hoping that primarily we'll be, for next fiscal year, be hosting expenditures for fiscal year 22-23. Any questions about that priority? So just to sum up, I attended the training on the new online budgeting process last week, a week ago today. And some of the above estimates aren't yet available, but I will circulate a draft before the new submission date that we've been given of October 25th. With today's discussion, just wanted to ensure that you concur with these priorities and with proceeding with this plan for next fiscal year.
Any discussion? Any information? Commissioner now.
I would move that we proceed with these priorities and the amounts set forth.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You got the green light.
All right.
Now you just have to get it on the website.
That's right.
Might be a little more difficult than this.
I anticipate that.
All right, the next item, so I don't make the same mistake I made at the last meeting, is the director's report.
Last we met, not that long ago. This is the most recent expenditure list from the office. Any questions regarding the commission's expenditures?
Still on target for our budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The only other item I wanted to bring up in my director's report was the fact that I'm going to start updating you on the need to complete ethics and sexual harassment training. I'll be making note of that. They're due by the end of the calendar year, and you'll start getting those updates from me on those processes.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes my report.
Did we receive any requests for opportunities to address the commission on matters that are not on the agenda?
We did not, Mr. Chairman.
And we received no such requests, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.